Hey guys, what's going on? It's James from cheeksbarbell.com. So today what I want to talk to you guys about are some of the fundamentals of a good diet and having good nutrition. We're going to talk about whole foods and minimally processed foods. We're going to talk about water, and we're going to talk about sleep. Now, let's start with sleep, because I know that one seems like it doesn't really have a lot to do with nutrition, but it actually has a big impact on what you're going to eat throughout the day. On nights that you don't really get enough sleep, what's going to happen is your body's going to start to crave a lot of those processed foods, a lot of the sugary foods that aren't so good for you, and a lot of the things that you just don't really want to have in your diet. Getting enough sleep is critical for your body to rest and recover, and if it doesn't have enough time to do that, it's going to start to look for outside sources of energy, and it's often going to look for those in bad places, like a candy bar or something along those lines. The other thing that getting enough sleep is going to do, it's going to make sure that you have enough willpower to stick to eating healthy. It's going to make sure you have enough willpower to get to the gym every day. It's going to make sure that you make better decisions throughout the day. When you start to get less than 6 hours of sleep a night, it really starts to affect your cortisol levels, it starts to affect your cognitive function, and it really starts to screw up your recovery after your workouts. You really want to try and get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep a day. If you're having a hard time with that, I recommend trying to squeak in a nap somewhere along the course of the day, and just doing something to make sure that you're getting more sleep than what you're getting now if you're under that 6 hour mark. Again, ideally you want to get 7 to 8 hours a day at least, preferably at night. I know a lot of my clients work a lot of shift work, a lot of them are nurses, wait tables and things of that nature, so it's a little tough for them. So what I tell them is just try and get sleep when you can. Try and squeeze out a 30-minute nap here and there, maybe an hour and a half nap. Just something to get a little more sleep and a little more recovery in your day. The next thing I want to talk about is water. Water is hugely important to your diet. A lot of the times we think that we're hungry when in fact we're just thirsty. You need a lot of water every day. I forget the exact amount. I think it's something like close to 3 liters a day minimum, somewhere around there. I think like 2.5 for women and about 3 for men. Really, you want to push for a little more, especially in the hot summer months. I try to drink at least a gallon a day, and I know that when I don't drink that full gallon, it definitely starts to affect me. Even mild dehydration is going to lead to a decline in cognitive function, so you're not going to be able to think as well. It's going to lead to a decline in performance, so you're not going to be able to get the most out of your workouts, and it's just going to leave you feeling a little sluggish. You're not going to have as much energy, and a lot of times you're also going to get hungry, and you're going to start eating food when you're not really hungry. You just need more water. All right, finally what we're going to talk about is whole foods. Most of our diets in Western culture, it's a lot of garbage. It's a lot of processed crap that you get in the supermarket. Anything in a box, in a bag, anything with more than one ingredient, those are all processed foods. You really want to stick to the whole foods. That's where you're going to get all the nutrients from. That's where you're going to get all the vitamins and minerals that you actually need to function from. You're not going to get those from the highly processed foods. Especially, the best example that I usually like to give is white bread. Now, white bread comes from white flour, and what they do to get the flour to be white like that is they just process it over and over and over again. They grind down the grains until all that's left is this white pulp, and they make bread out of it. In the process of doing that, they're taking away all of the nutrients out of that bread. In order to make up for the lack of nutrients in the white flour, a lot of bread companies or bread manufacturers, what they'll do is they'll try to fortify it later on with vitamins and minerals after they've already made the bread. The problem with that is your body's not going to absorb that the same way as if it was as it would if it came from a whole food source. You're going to get maybe a little bit if it says this piece of bread has 100% of your day's allowance of vitamin B, or you're going to meet all the requirements for vitamin B from eating that slice of bread. The reality is you're not. You're really only going to absorb maybe like 20% of that or 30%. I don't have the exact numbers, but it's definitely not going to be that 100% of your daily value that it's telling you is in there. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you're eating plenty of whole foods. So that's your meat, your vegetables, your fruits, some types of dairy. Now, when it comes to minimally processed foods, that's where you're gonna get a lot of your healthy fats from. Your olive oil they have to process it a little bit to extract that oil, but it's a very healthy food. It's gonna be a quality fat that you're gonna be able to get. Also, things like coconut oil, even grass-fed butter has a lot of omega-3s in it, which is really good for you. It is a saturated fat, but at the same time, it's a healthier saturated fat than if you're just eating, I don't know, like bacon grease or something like that. But so that's what you want to look for. You want to look for either whole foods or minimally processed foods. Even like Greek yogurt, they have to process it a little bit to turn the milk cream or whatever, I forget how they make it exactly, into yogurt, but they have the cultures of bacteria to it. So that is a process, and that is processed food, but at the same time it's minimally processed, and it's actually going to be good for you, as opposed to things like white bread, where they're going to take out all the nutrients and make it into this food-like substance, as author Michael Pollan in The Eater's Manifesto, a book that I definitely recommend you guys check out. So that's basically it though. For the basic fundamentals of what your diet should consist of, you need to make sure you get enough sleep so that you have the willpower to eat all the right foods, and to make sure that you are recovering fully from all your workouts. You're not going to be overly hungry. You're not going to crave the crappy foods. You want to make sure you're getting enough water so that you don't confuse thirst with hunger, because that's how you're going to start to binge eat and eat a lot of crap that you don't really need, when all you really need to do is rehydrate. And you want to stick to a diet that's based around whole and minimally processed foods, especially plants. So that's it for today. I'll see you guys next week. Take care.